But either way, you can always fix a paint mistake, almost always. So keep that paint coming on here, like this. It's good. Got a nice, strong blue base going. And now, granted, this is a pretty bright blue, a lot brighter than the game. That's fine. And I'll show you the reason why in a little while. I'm kind of doing a reverse stippling on this. A lot of the time when people stipple, they'll do a dark color on the bottom, or then they do a lighter color on the top to bring kind of a foreground and a background to an object, like give it 3 dimension. Since this book is kind of a dirtier blue, and it's got kind of a leathery texture to it, we're going to do something else entirely different, and I'm going to show you how that's going to work in a couple minutes here. So, let's see. So we got that first base coat on, that's good. Hopefully that will dry soon. Make sure you get that edge going. Don't worry about the inside edge yet. We'll take care of that in a little while. Just make sure you get the outside edge there. Just drag it along. You don't have to be precise. Just don't be messy. Super messy. Okay? So there's our blue right now. Go ahead and give it a once over. Check it to see. You can see up here it's already dry. So that's great. Just drag a little bit more on here. Certain areas. And wherever there's a metallic showing through or a bright color, give it a little bit of an extra boost of paint there. Okay? So we're going to push this to the side. We have our blue paint. Should be fine for a little while. I'm going to move that over here for now. Okay, so we got that going. We have our moss right here that we made. That's still drying as well. Let's see. That's pretty good. Got a little bit of stuff that falls off, but we're going to shake that off there anyway at the end. Okay, that's terrific. Once again, I got another paper plate coming up. One single paper plate. And now I'm going to take the cork out of this puppy, because I don't want to paint the cork. And just like in the book, just like in the game, we're going to be using a red. Now this red is a pain in the butt to me. If you get this brand, certain brands of red for some reason are thin. They're thin and kind of watery, even when they're supposed to be like a medium acrylic. So I'm actually going to use this thicker Reed's. I have a brilliant red here. Use a little bit of that. You can see it's a little bit slightly brighter. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. And then I also have another Reed's, which is the burnt sienna. Now, when you're looking at something that you're painting, when you're painting something with a gradient, which means, or ombre as they call it now, with hair and cakes and everything else, it just means that you're fading from light to dark. In painting, to increase like the likelihood of someone thinking that something is three-dimensional or looks more realistic, we like to do a kind of gradient. So we like to emphasize the structure that's already there. So if you take a look at this right now, you can kind of see where the light is hitting it. So we're going to kind of emphasize that, but we're going to pretend that this is red while we're doing that, instead of like this gray-black. So the areas that are dark black, we're going to make it dark red. The areas that are kind of a lighter, lighter gray, we're going to make a lighter red, and so on and so forth. We're going to kind of match it as if you know anything about Photoshop, as if you threw it in Photoshop and you hit a saturate and put it on, a red hue. And that might be resounding with some of you. If not, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you why. So we actually have this one already blue. I'm not worried about that. We're going to keep that paintbrush like it is. Going to make some room over here. I have my thicker brush here, and since this is kind of a nice cylindrical shape, and it's got kind of a smoothness to it, I want something that's kind of spread out easily like that. It's going to give me kind of a fan shape, nice and smooth. I don't want streaking, because in the game, it doesn't have texture. Okay, so we're going to try to keep this as smooth as possible. So to start out with, I'm going to take my burnt sienna, and I'm going to paint the bottom of this. And I know you're thinking, oh. Layer 2, what are you doing? Why are you making this a poop brown? Well, it may look poop brown to you, my friend, but soon enough it will look awesome. Because this brown at the bottom is going to kind of bleed upwards. Now, see how I'm kind of painting it like this, I'm getting that bottom color on. That's true. Okay. It's this brown color going here. Oh, my computer turned off for a second. Hold on. Can't see what I'm painting. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that color up like this. Okay. Drag it up. Now, it looks brown, that's true. But to the naked eye, it does look brown. But when you start mixing these colors together, like I said, they're going to give the illusion of like a gradient, like it does in the game. It won't give you this kind of flat feeling like, oh, look, this is just a red, bottle that someone has in their house. Okay, so go ahead and keep dragging that color up. Right now we are at 10 minutes and 38 seconds on our giant toes and our bear claws that are in there. So we're going to check on those once that timer goes off. Because I have no working memory, as player one likes to remind me, so I have to put timers on. He's my working memory. Everybody's good at something. He's very good at remembering things. I'm good at making stuff. Okay. So take a look at that here. All right, it's got a nice brown coat to it. It's lovely. You don't have to wipe off the brush at this point. Now, I'm going to test this just to see what it looks like here. See how it kind of gives that streak like that? I don't like that. That's because it's a thinner acrylic. This acrylic here is thicker. Now, it's going to give a little bit of that streak, but not as much. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do this. We're going to bring it up in real quick flashes of the brush like that. Okay. That's okay if the color gets a little tiny muddy. Not a big deal. Another way to do this too, if you have the time and the inclination and you don't feel like painting, if you get spray paint, you have some laying around, you can certainly do this as well. You can spray paint in the same kind of manner that I'm actually just regular painting. So you would spray, if you want actually, you could spray the whole actual bottle, kind of that brownish color or dark red, and then work your way around as I'm doing here. Okay. It's like some piece of moss from our moss got on there. It's kind of streaking things. Okay. Like that. Got their moss dirtying things up. Yuck. Okay, keep that going. Just keep going up and down with that brush. You can go back and forth if you want to at the bottom and kind of move that in there a little bit so the color fades. I like to do kind of cross effect so that I feel like kind of gives a better, more realistic rendering. So kind of got that color going on, as you can see here. It's kind of fading up. It looks kind of cool, kind of goth by itself, actually. We want the top to be like a real bright red. So we're going to put on kind of a thick layer. This is the point here where it's getting difficult. So I like to put my finger in it like that and really kind of layer on the red here. It's okay to make it kind of thick. Not too thick because you got a little lip on the bottle. I think by the time we finish this first coat on here, we should be getting our claws and toe out of the oven. We can put that in the freezer. Like I said, if you want to and you're following along with this, you can put it in the freezer or the fridge to cool it off right away. Know, of course, the internal temperature is going to be obviously different than the external temperature on the outside of the toe and the claws. So although it might appear to be a certain size and take a certain amount of paint, it might crack, so then you're going to do it too quickly. So that's up to you. I'm going to do it because I'm trying to show you a tutorial. If you have more time, you have time to experiment. And I see how this paint's kind of bunching up. I think that's got to do with whatever paint that's on this to begin with before I started painting it. The top of this is dry, so I'm going to turn it. Use a little bit of that red. And sometimes you get an acrylic too, and it claims to be a true red, and it's like a, I don't know, like a pink, a hot pink color. You hate that. Try to put in a little bit more of this brilliant red from Reeves. Pretty cool, pretty cool. We're going to go ahead and drag that color up again. Okay? Keep dragging it. I mean by dragging it like that, just streak it upwards. It's okay if it's not perfect looking. This is just our first draft, our first layer of color on here. And in the future, I'm going to do some spells, or not spells, but potions and bottles that are going to be another kind of gradient you can use. They're going to kind of give it like a real funky kind of mystical sheen. I'll show you how to do that in the future, but this is our kind of starter potion here. This is kind of an easier one to make. Okay, so we're going to stick with that for now. I'm going to let this sit right there since the bottom is fine. You can see the top looks a little dusky. You can't see it. Looks a little dusky there. That's fine. I'm going to put this over here so I'm a little more organized. Let's see how our book is doing. Ooh, looking good. There's barely any sheen to it, which means it's mostly dry, our first layer. So we're going to go ahead and add another layer on. My fingers are clean enough and a little bit of paint, but it's blue mostly. So go ahead and add another layer. You can kind of be a little less concerned with this one. I actually get a little bit of this moss that's showing up in my paint. It fell off in here, but I kind of like it because it's giving it a little bit of texture. Because you know, in the game, it's not something that's mass-produced. These books, they're supposed to be like something that was made by a mage, some individual, So if you're getting them like this, and you have a little bit of texture, that's nothing to be embarrassed about or worried about. Okay. So I'll put that next layer down. After this layer, we're going to move on to the stippling effect. There. I broke my own law a little bit. I got a tiny bit of the blue on the side there. Not the end of the world. That's Ragnarok. And that is not this. So go ahead and get your side of the book here. Actually, the name escapes me for the side of the book. I don't know what it's called. Spine. Ah, yes, spine. I guess technically it's the back of the book. I think that's why they call it the spine, right? It's bound together. We'll have to look that one up. What they say about assumptions. Same thing, we're just going to drag this color across. You're not really worried about blending anything because it's just one color, so go ahead and just make sure you put a decent coat on, not too thick, not too thin. You don't want it chunking up, but you don't want it not covering an area again. So go ahead and do that. Make sure you wrap it all the way around the book. We're going to head back to our potion again. Work on the second coat. It's kind of funny. I was trying to explain to my future mother-in-law why I was doing this. I bought these books at the store, and she thought they were just beautiful. And she seemed kind of upset when I was telling her I was going to paint them because, they're pretty to begin with, but it was kind of funny. It was hard to explain to her why I was, I guess, ruining them in her eyes. But I think they're pretty cool. I'm excited about making the whole set, putting them on my shelf. Layer 1 and I kind of have a house here that we're working on, that we're living at, and it has a built-in bookshelf. It's an older house. It has plaster walls, so it's kind of old school. It's real pretty. It's original old wood and stuff like that. So really like that kind of feel. But because it's got that built-in